There you have it, my friends. Ooh. In Limbo, 10 years ago, Kid A, Radiohead. And it still seems as though we are in a state of limbo. But I want to tell you right now, we're into hour number 2 of this 190th episode from Media Monarchy. My name's James Evan Pilato. I'm your host and webmaster of the site and show, MediaMonarchy.com, your source for alternative news, politics, conspiracies, and cover-ups. Broadcasting live from the Portland Radio Authority, PRAradio.org, as well as ZeroPointRadio.com and RevereRadio.net. And we are streaming live video on Ustream.tv/MediaMonarchy-com, I believe. But I take all the videos and put them over to YouTube and also upload them to archive. Again, building out the redundancy. Any number of ways to get this massive blast of alternative news and open source intelligence. So as I said before the In Limbo break, we've now made it to the 1014 News Purge, Become the Enemy, named for our opening song from the Lemonheads. And appropriately enough, as we begin alphabetically with our 9/11 updates, we start with a piece from New York Magazine, nymag.com. In their article, 171 Minutes with Evan Dando and Juliana Hatfield. Within this article, as they're hanging around their apartment in New York, Dando uses both hands to pick up his piece of the World Trade Center. Open the window, he commands. The towers were right there. That morning really fucked me up. The second plane was so close it went shroom right over my head. He pauses and absentmindedly pats the pack of Marlboro Lights in his shirt pocket. Because I was so close, I know what really happened, he says. I shouldn't get into it because I'm not a political person, but they were blown up by bombs. They were not taken out by those airplanes. Those fires were going out, and then the buildings blew up. What I saw and heard that day was a crime, and not by the people they're saying. That's all I'll say. He pauses and says, I'm worried about our country, but then again, I've been worried about America my entire life. The Lemonheads, Evan Dando says, World Trade Center blown up by bombs. Add another notch to the massive voice. The chorus calling for real 9/11 investigations. Posted up with this story at the top of the News Purge, Become the Enemy. I went ahead and put up my photo of myself with Evan Dando when he was in town last year with the Lemonheads. So you got the two Evans there. I thought that was a good photo to go along with it. And hell, when they come back through town, now we've definitely got something to talk about other than, hey man, I'm a big fan, will you sign this? But let's get through our other related 9/11 updates. As it seems, more and more each week, continuation and updates as stories keep spilling and their legs keep growing, fortunately. But former Alaskan Senator Mike Gravel spearheading a California 9/11 Truth Commission initiative. More on that, of course, from 911blogger.com. As well, they note that MediaMatters.org, of course, that foundation-funded watchdog of media, putting up a cry that Fox News' Judge Napolitano has, of course, essentially joined forces with 9/11 truther Alex Jones. We can also get into Project Censored, as our own alternative weekly, The Willamette Week, covered the latest 2010 Project Censored stories. We know that internally within Project Censored, there's a big problem. And it's number 14 on this list from 911blogger.com. I'm not exactly sure how it breaks down that it's included in this list, but not in another. Maybe it's just not in the top 10. Increased tensions with unresolved 9/11 issues. They get into, of course, the 1,000-plus architects and engineers calling for a new 9/11 investigation. They cite it from Global Research and AE911truth.org, Examiner.com, as well as other press releases. Daniel Tenser's report on Raw Story about, of course, Cass Sunstein, Obama staffer wants cognitive infiltration of 9/11 conspiracy groups. The Daily Mail writing about Osama bin Laden being dead for 7 years, and the US and the UK continuing to cover it up to continue the war of terror. Increased tensions with unresolved 9/11 issues. I think you'll notice 9/11 Truth hasn't gone away, is not going to go away. Even my conversation with Barbara Peterson of farmwars.info that I just published overnight, you can get it from the feeds. She cited 9/11 as her awakening. It's the catalyzing, catastrophic event that's just too big and too stinky and too suspicious to go away and to leave alone. It's not the only thing we're going to focus on. There's no way. Again, if you're losing your house, you won't have any place to store your 9/11 was an inside job sign. But it's the blank check, and you know it. But as I reference the continuing updates, as we give the caveat around this story that for something the Pentagon wanted to cover up, it sure does get a lot of coverage from all the corporate media outlets. But the aforementioned Judge Napolitano had back on Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer, connected to Able Danger, identified Mohammed Atta, pre-9/11. His book recently, Operation Dark Heart, had its first 10,000 copies bought and burned by the Pentagon. Here he is again on Napolitano discussing the 9/11 cover-up.
Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer was with us last week to talk about his book, Operation Dark Heart, which alleges shocking errors in the conduct of American intelligence operations. Now the colonel is going even further, alleging a cover-up at the highest levels of our government surrounding 9/11. Colonel Anthony Schaefer joins me now. Colonel, welcome back. Just to set the picture, you are career military, now retired. You were in charge of a group of military intelligence officials overseas called Able Danger. Part of their responsibility was to find out who knew what, when, where the bad guys were, where the Taliban was, where Al-Qaeda was. At some point after 9/11, you met with the director of the 9/11 Commission. Who was he? Where did you meet? And what did he say to you?
I was actually working at Bagram Air Force Base as undercover, working as part of the project in the book, Operation Dark Heart. I met Dr. Philip Zelikow in mid-October 2003.
Okay.
During that session, I disclosed the existence of Able Danger plus another operation which related to Able Danger directly, which was going to be the real mission for my unit to go in and do some things to the Al-Qaeda threat that we identified.
Philip Zelikow, Dr. Zelikow, now a professor at the University of Virginia, at the time was the staff director for the 9/11 Commission,
Correct.
right?
Right.
We are after 9/11 in this story you're telling me.
Right.
Zelikow and his team are in Iraq interrogating you and others about what you knew, when you knew it, and whether you're going to tell this to the 9/11 Commission.
He was an Afghanistan judge.
Okay, Afghanistan.
Bagram, and yes, he was.
Okay, go ahead.
And the idea was that they were on this fact-finding mission trying to figure out what intelligence was available to help fill in the missing gaps relating to the failures before 9/11. I volunteered to my Army chain of command and said, they may already know about this. As a matter of fact, they probably do. But just in case they don't, here's a one-page summary of what I want to talk to them about, and I'd like to give them the background Able Danger.
All right. You have given me a copy of that summary. You have given me a copy of your notes of your conversation with Professor Zelikow.
Yes.
And one of the things says, I'm quoting this directly, Colonel, CIA undermined sub-sources. What does that mean?
This is where we're in a gray area by the fact the Pentagon, I testified to this fact, and now the Pentagon's pulled it back out, which you need to ask, why would the Pentagon pull something out which is now 10 years old, which was actually my original testimony?
What is it?
Well, the issue has to do with an asset that we were using for the actual spearhead of the Able Danger project.
When you say an asset, you mean a human being providing you information about the bad guys?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay, what became of that human being?
Well, in this particular operation, one of the reasons I reported this Dr. Zelikow as part of the Able Danger project, he was going to be used to do some what we call black operation support for this project. What happened was CIA protested his operational existence because they were at the time running a parallel operation called out of Alex Base. And because of that conflict, supposedly, CIA went to Congress and said, this guy's bad. He killed his wife.
They're not talking about you. They're talking about the asset.
About the asset.
The person in Afghanistan.
Yeah, they used the excuse of that he supposedly killed his wife and ran drugs, which most people did.
Did this guy provide you and the Defense Intelligence Agency for which you worked, the Pentagon, with actionable information?
He was consistently doing it, yes.
He was consistently doing it. And the CIA wanted him neutralized because he was your asset and not theirs.
That's correct.
Is that fair?
That is correct.
There you go. Sometimes when the left hand finds out what the right hand's doing, they want to argue. That's what happens within the compartmentalization of the intelligence labyrinth, of course, brought to us by the National Security Act of 1947. It also gave us CIA, the NSA, came right around the time the OSS morphed into the CIA. We were bringing Nazis over as part of Project Paperclip. Of course, Israel became a state not long after that, and it's all connected, my friends. There you go. There's another bit of info to add to the Able Danger file. Our last note of 9/11 updates is a video update. We won't play the clip for you, but it is there. CBS says ground-level explosion caused World Trade Center to collapse on the morning of 9/11. This is another video brought to us by the amazing FOIA success of the International Center for 9/11 Studies. You can get most of the videos on youtube.com/IC911 Studies. And again, we just add it to the list. Add it to the pile. We now move to our latest BioWars EnviroHealth updates, where CanadaFreePress.com notes it's climate science's worst week ever, and we'll jump to digitaljournal.com for a little bit of an explanation on that. Scientist resigns from Physics Society, calls global warming a scam. The world has been bombarded by those arguing for and those arguing against the supposed facts in the case for global warming. Now, a top professor has resigned from the American Physical Society, calling global warming a scam. The Telegraph published his letter in full after it was made available to the public on October 8th. That entire text is available for you, but we'll just jump down to the pertinent part for you, where he says, "I am forced, with no pleasure at all, to offer you my resignation from the society. It is, of course, the global warming scam, with the literally trillions of dollars driving it, that has corrupted so many scientists, has carried APS before it like a rogue wave. It is the greatest and most successful pseudoscientific fraud I have seen in my long life as a physicist." And there you have it. Are we jacking up the environment? Yes, if by we, you mean the multinational corporations who have forced us to use their garbage, even though better, more efficient, more green technologies have always existed, be they electric cars or hemp. But we've all been geared into the phony global warming scam. And of course, even if you believe in man-made global warming, what is paying a carbon tax to Goldman Sachs and Jamie Dimon and the Rothschilds and Al Gore and the rest of them? What's that going to do? It's a new global tax. So there's more on Hal Lewis. This is the guy who resigned. Global warming greatest and most successful pseudo-scientific fraud. There's more on that from Cryptagon. There's more on that from the aforementioned Digital Journal. FloridaOilSpillLaw.com gets into the EPA saying Corexit is quote-unquote perfectly safe. And in a 10-minute video basically compares Corexit dispersant to a Klondike bar. I shouldn't have to remind you the EPA said the air was safe to breathe at Ground Zero mere days after 9/11. White House will lift ban on deep water drilling in the Gulf of Mexico. That's again from Digital Journal. Twins die moments after receiving a measles vaccination. More on that from Mercola.com. A fantastic one from Daily Mail. Cancer purely man-made, say scientists, after finding almost no trace in Egyptian mummies. And you should know that, again, the difference between these causes and effects, we like to throw money at effects and never look at the cause. Our last note in the BioWars EnviroHealth notes is an amazing piece that's available on beforeitsnews.com. They also host all the syndicated stories from the Media Monarchy Kingdom. Horror as man mutates into living tree.